And now we're going. Here we are, BrainPub Network, Studio B.
B.
Most people didn't even know there was a Studio B. Actually, I used it one other time. I used it for one other public service announcement when we were moving from the old channel to the new channel. But I'm here now. Fortunately, Studio B also has a fully stocked bar, so I do not have to forego my customary rum old fashioned. This is now. I didn't take the liberty of adding the Scotch floater on the rum old fashioned because I feel like that's starting to become traditional as well. But I'm just sticking with the regular thing here.
We're also tight on Scotch.
We're tight on Scotch, and
for full transparency, there is no bar.
There's always a bar. There's always a bar.
There's a bar somewhere.
Your bar. I'm trying to come up with something that sounds like home is where you hang your hat. Your bar is where you
forget your everything.
So
your bar is where your smile lies.
So today's exciting episode
and your intelligence dies.
I'm not really like. Should I look at the camera when we do it like this, or should I not? Should I look at you?
Look at the camera.
I should look at the camera.
Speak to the people.
Because there's no guest, obviously. But what we want to do today, and this was actually Trevor's idea, was that we started this show early on based on this notion of the American dream. And, most of the time we don't really talk about the American dream itself. I know this is a little awkward. Maybe I need to put this over here. That's better. There we go.
Yeah, it's so much better.
It's teetering on the edge of the
anxiety.
mic apparatus. We don't usually hit the topic head on so much because we don't really want to get into a lot of academic discussions. We want to talk about real people in real life. However, Trevor thought maybe this would be a good time to go back, look at the original, the OG American dream right here in, see what I did? Epic of America. And then I want to look at what some people, he's looking at me like,
see what I did there? Absolutely nothing.
Nothing. I did absolutely nothing. Page 404. Let's just get into it. Let's not talk about what we're going to talk about. Let's just talk about what we're going to talk about.
Freaking keynote.
Page 404. I still think it's funny that it's on 404.
It is funny.
And here is where John Truslow Adams says, "All right, folks. I know you've heard me say this before, but I just want to jump from this to what people are saying today, and I think it's good to have the original anchor in mind. So, anchor in mind. Here's what he says. If, as I have said, the things already listed were all we had to contribute, America would have made no distinctive and unique gift to mankind. If you want to know what those things are, you got to go back to 403 to find out. I'm not going to do that. But there has been also the American dream in the way of contribution. The dream of a land in which life should be better and richer and fuller for every man and woman, I think those inclusive, with opportunity for each according to his ability or achievement." And then he goes on to say, "It is not a dream of motor cars and high wages merely, but a dream of a social order in which each man and each woman shall be able to attain to the fullest stature of which they are innately capable and be recognized by others for what they are, regardless of the fortuitous circumstances of birth or position."
I like how he says it's not a dream of motor cars merely. Like it's still like a cool car is still like cool.
Well, it was 1931, so not everybody had a car yet.
Right, but he's saying
almost no one had a TV.
But he's no. Some very fast puppets though.
Fast puppets.
No, but like he said, it's not. He could have said it is not a dream of motor cars. It is a dream of all this other stuff, but it's not merely. So like you still have a cool car. Like, it's
not exclusive of motor cars. There's another part here that I have marked with a pencil that I don't think we've ever mentioned on the show, but he says no.
Drew in the 80-year-old book.
In 90 years old. The American dream that has lured tens of millions of all nations to our shores in the past century, or if we update that, just in the past 2 weeks, has not been a dream of merely material plenty, though that has doubtless counted heavily. It has been much more than that. It has been a dream of being able to grow to the fullest development as man and woman, unhampered by the barriers which had slowly been erected in older civilizations, unrepressed by social orders which had developed for the benefit of classes rather than for the simple human being of any and every class. And that dream has been realized more fully in actual life here than anywhere else. So notice he doesn't say that has been realized perfectly here, but more fully in actual life here than anywhere else, though very imperfectly even among ourselves. So what he's saying is, here in America, we're doing a whole new thing. And it's better for everybody. Now.
But what have those everybody's said? Because we've had some of those everybody's.
Yeah.
We've had 20...
We've had
6,
what,
32?
this is going to be episode 33, I think.
So we've had, not including me from the last one, but like...
Yeah, that one doesn't count.
We've had probably like 30 people.
Yeah, at least. Yeah. Nobody has really come out and said the American dream is bullshit.
No.
You could argue it's because I picked people who would say that, but I've been trying to pick people of a variety of viewpoints, and nobody has said it. However, if you'd like to be on the show and you'd like to come on the show and say the American dream is bullshit, we are happy to have that conversation in a civil, intelligent manner. Now, here's some stuff I found to this effect. First of all, and we don't have the fancy Trev, can you pull it up capability here?
No, kick rocks. Your own old man.
However, I'll just give you the gist, folks. Now, this is an article from June 5th, a few days ago, in the Deseret News. The Deseret, not Desert News, but Deseret News. And it looks like this is a newspaper in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Oh.
Utah. Oh. And it says, does the working class believe in the American dream? A new Deseret News Harris X national poll reveals a working class who remain skeptical of the American dream. They remain skeptical. Although there's a picture here of a family that looks very happy. They're playing some sort of game on the floor with their toddler, so they don't seem that unhappy. So there's the typical story of some guy and his family and what happened to them, blah, blah, blah. Let's get to the poll. But they did take this poll. Data from a new poll conducted by Harris X for the Deseret News revealed a conflicted working class, where many have experienced upward economic mobility during their own lives, but amid rising costs and financial instability still find themselves skeptical. So they're experiencing upward economic mobility, but they're still skeptical. And then after that it says, these results get right to the heart of a long-standing debate between experts as to whether the American dream is alive and well, dead or dying. So first of all, I think it's funny that the American dream is something that, is described as this is a place where people have the opportunity to do better than they might have done somewhere else. And yet, somehow there are experts who sit and debate this academically, I guess, or however they debate it. I mean, a long-standing debate. So while the rest of us are out here trying to make a go of it and live, and take what we got and do something with it, you got I just picture like these experts sitting in a room.
It's like the whole
debating
parable,
whether it's real or not.
It's like the whole parable of there's a group of scientists who are standing outside of a cave and trying to figure out if there's a sample of something they need in the cave, but they don't know if there's a bear in there or not. So they're like, before they go into the cave, they're analyzing around the cave to see if there's a bear in there before they go in. But they spend like all the time analyzing, trying to figure out something that may or may not be there. But then the other group of scientists just go in there is no bear. They find out, and they just get the sample they need, and then they move on to the next cave while the other scientists are still there, skeptical of whether or not it's safe to go
This
in
is a
the cave.
What? This is a real. Did you just make this up?
No, I heard it somewhere.
You heard this? Yeah, yeah. So
But it's like that whole idea, like, okay, instead of like
they're analyzing.
nerds,
They're analyzing whether.
why
Anyway,
don't you just go live
let's-
instead,
let-
and like asking people, like it seems like it's.
I think polling people isn't a bad idea because you get to. I mean, remember we had Dr. Taj on, and he said he was skeptical of a poll because he said, well, the poll, you can only generalize the poll to the people that have been polled. Like, they didn't ask
Right.
me, they didn't ask you, but good polling methodology is supposed to select a sample of people that's supposed to be like a representative sample of the whole. Of course, we know that, as we know from George Danner, when he was on, of course, he was talking about models, but the same thing goes for polls. Everything reflects a bias of whoever designed the thing. So anyway, but it makes for good conversation. So here's a few more comments, and then I'll give you the results of this poll here. The dream. Though the phrase "the American dream" has come to mean different things since it was first popularized nearly 100 years ago. So it's good that they actually reckon. So they actually know where it came from. You could tell from this quote that whoever wrote this article at least knows where the whole concept originated. So it has come to mean different things since then, but now it is most often associated with upward economic mobility. It's the promise that with hard work you can do better than your parents did before you, because you can't do better than they did after you. And it's the promise that where you end up won't be dictated by where you start out. That's actually a very good definition. I like that. So here's the question now. Here's the poll. How many people, well, let's see what the answers were. And those of you following along at home, we would love to know what you think. Tell us in the comments. So the question is that notion of the American dream associated with upward economic mobility, doing better than your parents, and where you end up not being determined by where you came from, is it very accessible, somewhat accessible, somewhat inaccessible, or very inaccessible? What do you think?
What the result was?
No, what do you think?
Oh.
If you were in the poll, what would you say? The American dream, very accessible, somewhat inaccessible, or very inaccessible?
I think it depends on the degree to which you're satisfied
want
with
it.
the success. No.
Oh, depends on what you call success, right? Is it?
Yeah, and I think it also varies on your original state where you're starting from, because
Okay, so I was tempted to think the same thing, but the whole idea is it's not supposed to be dependent on that.
on where you start.
Yeah, the whole idea is that it's highlighted in yellow here. It's the promise that where you end up won't be dictated by where you start out. So the whole idea is that you're supposed to be able to attain a better life, upward mobility, better than your parents, irrespective of how you started, what your situation was.
True, but I think the your definition of success is dependent on where you start. So it's not so much
Your expectations is what you're saying. What you expect to achieve.
Yeah, so like if the American dream is to make $100,000, the guy who starts somehow at $90,000 versus the guy who starts at $1,000 that's a $10,000 difference versus a $999,000 difference.
So what you're saying is, people, depending on where you start, some people have a bigger hill to climb.
Well, but they're not going to define that $100,000 as the same.
Differently, right? They will, right. So, again, it's all comparative in terms of nobody's saying, and we've said this before. The idea isn't that you're necessarily going to have as great a life as that person, but you could make a better life for yourself than you might have had otherwise. So, anyway, something to think about. Here's what survey says. 13%. This was working class adults. So, and they define working class as people that tend to, they had a particular definition of working class. I don't remember what it was here exactly, but it means basically what you would think working class means. So of working class adults, 13% said very accessible. So that's not, I actually think that's not bad for 13% to say, yeah, it's accessible. 31% said somewhat accessible. And then 37% said somewhat inaccessible. And then 20% said very inaccessible.
What's the difference between somewhat accessible and somewhat inaccessible?
I don't know. This is how they do polls. So the moral of the story, folks.
But you can say something is somewhat good or somewhat bad.
Yeah.
But somewhat accessible or somewhat inaccessible. Isn't that like a glass half full or half empty thing?
Yeah,
it's the same.
Somewhat
amount
accessible,
of water.
somewhat. It's sort of like in football where like the guy's trying to like run the ball across the first yard. I mean, to get to the first yard, to get the first down, and there's a big pile up, and the commentator says he may or may not have made it.
It's like, well, yeah,
that's the same.
Correct.
Yeah,
you are
so
correct.
It's somewhat, or anyway.
Well, if something is somewhat accessible, it's somewhat inaccessible.
Exactly. Where's the line between one another? Anyway, the point is that less than 44% of the people surveyed fell on the positive side of this response. So, not a whole lot. So, it's not a majority. On the other hand, and if you're counting pluralities, the plurality said somewhat inaccessible. But the majority wasn't positive, but 44%, I think, is higher than if you just went by what you hear from certain sources in media or social, or people who are making a lot of noise about inequality in America, and and wanting equal outcomes and needing to kind of fix the system so it works for everybody. If you listened to that message, I think that you would be surprised to know that almost half, 44% of the working class people, not the rich people, not the upper middle class, but the working class, almost half of them said, yeah, you can get there with hard work and perseverance. You can have a better life than your parents had, do better, and you can get yourself somewhere that isn't dependent on where you started. So I'm gonna call that scoring a point in the positive column. Now, let's go to my favorite authority on all things, the World Economic Forum.
Oh yeah,
love these guys. Well, I mean, the entertainment value is high most of the time, so you got to give them that.
Until you remember it's real.
Now this is old. This is from 2017.
Is that old?
Yeah, it's 5 years ago.
Damn.
6 years ago. 6 years ago. You can find us on the World Economic Forum website. But I expect that if you were to ask whoever the genius was that wrote this, if you were to ask them now, they'd probably say it's even worse because of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So because COVID made everything worse for the people who already had it bad. And here it is. It starts right out the first sentence. The American dream is broken.
Damn.
Don't tell those 44% of those people over there that because they don't think it is. But the WEF, the World Economic Forum, or is it WEF? They say the American dream is broken. Paul Ryan, Speaker of the House. Remember when Paul Ryan was Speaker of the House? Recently stated in 2017 that in our country, the condition of your birth does not determine the outcome of your life. However, the World Economic Forum, WEF, disagrees and says, yet the idea that every American has an equal opportunity to move up in life is false. Social mobility has declined over the past decades. Social mobility has declined, median wages have stagnated, and today's young generation is the first in modern history expected to be poorer than their parents. They don't quote any. I mean, they don't cite anything on these facts that they are stating. But I want to call attention to this one slight little nuance here. See if you can pick it up, folks. The idea that every American has an equal opportunity to move up in life is false. Is that what the American dream says? That you have an equal opportunity to move up in life. So when we talk about an equal opportunity, is that an equal opportunity to move up? What does that mean, an equal opportunity to move up in life? I don't even know how to quantify that. So if you say everybody has the opportunity to do better than they might have, if they work hard, if they're dedicated, if they're right, if they do whatever they got to do, right? Everybody has the opportunity to do better. That's different from saying everybody has the equal opportunity to move up. To me, equal opportunity to move up sounds like everybody has the opportunity to sort of equally move to the same level of whatever success is. Mm-hmm. And I don't think anybody ever. I don't think if you look at, like, that's not it. Like, nobody's saying that.
Well, yeah, like you said, how do you quantify that? And that's what people with the with these sort of arguments do, is they take a statement that sounds like something that would be said. And that was retarded, what I just said. Oh, can we use the R word?
Hey, the Cully one sailed through, so I don't know.
But they'll take a statement that you would hear like, oh, the American dream, whatever, you know, what do you say? The American dream equal, I can't even remember what I said.
Equal opportunity to move. So the idea that every American has an equal opportunity.
It's my cloud.
Here's another thing. Anyway, we don't have time to dig into these too much. I just kind of want to throw these out for future consideration. Here, they also say this: the lottery of life, the postcode where you were born, can account for up to 2/3 of the wealth an individual generates. So that is very specific. So what they're saying is, where you were born and what your station in life can account for 2/3 of the wealth that you generate. I would like to see the spreadsheet that calculates that number. But anyway.
What? Why? Why not just say something? That's easier.
The growing gap between the rich and the poor, the old and the young, has been largely, and so then so naturally, our friends at the WEF, from there, they use this as a launch, jump off point to say that basically the problem is that government policy is not effectively redistributing wealth, which it ought to be doing. And let's see. There's a lot here about the history of easy credit. Actually, some of the things they say I really agree with. Like they say, for example, inequality is much more than a side effect of free market capitalism. I think it's funny that they consider inequality, this part I don't agree with. Inequality is not a side effect of free market capitalism, but nonetheless, they say it's much more than that. It is a symptom of policy negligence where for decades, credit and monetary stimulus shortcuts too easily substituted for structural reform, investment, and economic strategy. I kind of agree with that. I agree with that in the sense that the Keynesian economic policy of credit and monetary stimulus is what got us into this mess. I don't think that structural reform is what gets us out. But nonetheless, they say that capitalism has been incredibly successful at boosting wealth. Okay, I can't even read this with a straight face. Listen to this. Capitalism has been incredibly successful at boosting wealth, but it has failed at redistributing it.
See, it's always the good of the people. What do we do? Oh, wow, this is great. It's worked for so many people, but it didn't work for everybody.
So I think the day that we
That's why you need to have less babies, so then it's easier to do it for everybody.
It's not the back porch edition. So Anyway, that's what the WEF says. Let's see, what else can we look at here? How are we doing on time? I know I was supposed to be watching time, but I forgot to notice what time we started. There's a little timer on that thing over there.
25.
Okay. Now, I want to throw this in. This is a little sidebar, but I think that it is interesting. This was when was this? This was also in 2017. The reason I found this is because the WEF article cites this, and so they happened at the same time. This is a CNBC article that was written by Nishka Chandran.
Oh my!
And on
canceled.
January 25th, 2017.
25th was that the tragic day?
No, it's 2017. It's way before. All right, now here's the.
I think you can hear me scratching my.
But actually, but this is just a journalist who's reporting on this. The headline says the U.S. is no longer a full democracy. EIU.
Were you sounding out the vowels there?
EIU warns. So there's some organization called the EIU.
Oh.
Now listen to this. This is great. The U.S. That's us.
Here.
Has been demoted from a full democracy to a flawed democracy for the first time, according to the Economist Intelligence Unit. The Economist Intelligence Unit, the EIU. I have no idea who they are.
Who selected those guys?
It's a company. It's some.
Did we?
It's some. Okay, now. I think it's funny that. So. By all accounts of every political science and economic scholar that's ever been worth listening to, democracy itself is flawed. It's not perfect. No government is perfect. This is why so many different governments have been tried. This is why the Romans went through how many different? There was an empire, it was a republic, then it was an empire, then it was a republic again.
Yeah.
Then they started letting like foreign military captains take control of regions, and,
which is kind of what we're doing now. Which was the beginning of
special interest groups, right?
Yeah. Because we sell data to China and such. So
Right.
The AC is on full blast.
The AC is on full blast. All right. Well, we may have to fix that.
I think it's on my mic.
So
it sounds like we're in a storm.
Does it sound like we're? Don't make me laugh. I'm still getting over this cough. Yeah, I mean, this is why. What was the Winston Churchill quote? I want to get it right because people always say it wrong. Churchill on democracy.
Talking so loud.
What? That is
talking so loud.
It's really loud.
Above the.
All right, we did not. Sorry, folks. We did not realize that the AC unit here was going to be as rambunctious as. However, I will say it's like 105 degrees here in Houston, Texas today. So, and here's the democracy quote. All right, Winston Churchill, November 11th, 1947, said, "Many forms of government have been tried." I think right there, sometimes people don't appreciate that part. Many forms of government have been tried since time immemorial.
They just haven't done
it right. As my Sicilian relatives would say. Many forms of government have been tried and will be tried in this world of sin and woe.
Whoa.
No one pretends that democracy is perfect or all-wise. Indeed, it has been said that democracy is the worst form of government, except for all those other forms that have been tried from time to time. So basically,
many words.
Democracy is the worst type of government, except for all the other ones. So nobody has ever said that it's perfect, and yet our friends here at the where is this thing? Where are those guys? Oh man, I lost my page when I went to here. Okay, CNBC at the what is it? EIU, the Economic Instigator Union or something like that. Oh, see, now I can't get. Here it is. The Economist Intelligence Unit now calls us a flawed democracy. Every year, so here's a little background. Every year, the firm being the Economist Intelligence Unit. Every year, their democracy index. So check this out. Democracy Index provides a snapshot of global democracy by scoring countries on 5 categories. So they've like, so what's your democracy score? But hey,
sounds like ESG score.
Apparently they make money doing this, so free market capitalism. Here's the 5 categories: electoral process and pluralism. Okay, well, I have philosophical disagreements with that. Civil liberties, yes. The functioning of government, obviously we're broken. Political participation, kind of broken. And political culture, all the way broken. I can see why maybe they've... So, while I think it's kind of funny that they've come up with this, like, scoring system...
Wait, didn't they just choose... categories that... like, that are obviously going to get bad scores on?
Well, for us, yeah, but apparently they've been doing this for some time. Now, America's score fell to 7.98 last year.
Who is...
Seven,
down Who is this?
Down
Does he
from,
live in the Arctic where he's, like, just separate from...
Down from 8.05 in 2015. Which, by the way, 8.0...
we gotta get our demo score
so
up.
We fell below the 8.00 threshold for a full democracy.
What?
So we are now a flawed democracy.
If God didn't establish this, then I don't know how we can give it any credit.
I think it's really funny. But I really just don't know what to say about that. But anyway, there's a rating system and
who's doing this rating?
The Economist Intelligence Unit, the EIU.
I didn't elect
the EIU.
Them. I didn't. That's a song. That's that McDonald's song.
EIU. All right, moving right along. So,
but old McDonald got his farm revoked.
You got that for whatever
he had a poor ESG score, and now negatively impacted our demo rating.
And now, the pièce de résistance from the New York Times, of all places, an opinion piece in the New York Times from 2019. So this is like February 2019. So right before, like a month before that. Remember that thing that happened where people were getting sick?
Well, it was a month before, but it was 5 years.
Don't say it.
Into the planning. I'm just saying
we can't say that.
we didn't say it though.
Okay. All right. So
papers from 2014.
Right here, folks, in the New York Times. Can you see that? The American dream is alive and well.
Damn. They didn't get the memo.
In the New York Times, folks. Right there. See? Is it focused? Can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. The American dream is alive and well, according to the New York Times. It's an opinion piece, so we can't hold the New York Times. It's an opinion. It's outside opinion. It's not a editorial piece. And it's written by Dr. Samuel J. Abrams, who is a political scientist.
Director.
He's a professor of politics at Sarah Lawrence College and a visiting fellow at the American Enterprise Institute.
Let's talk about the worst title that somebody can have, which is fellow.
Visiting fellow? No, fellow. You can't. Fellow is a big deal. But I think this guy's from the American Enterprise Institute, which I'm a big fan of. I just think it's funny that the Times actually published something from somebody. But anyway, they did. And so here's what he says. The American dream is alive and well. Most people in this country say that they are living it. But what they mean by the phrase might surprise you. Now, let's just hit this really quick.
This chair's going to fall apart under me.
Your chair's fine. But the furniture in Studio B is not as good as the furniture in Studio A. He says, I am pleased to report that the American dream is alive and well for an overwhelming majority of Americans. So, 43.
If you regularly smoke weed in America, you cannot say the American dream is dead.
Funny you should say that. So listen. This claim might sound far-fetched given the cultural climate of the United States. And he gives some examples of some of the more, more feisty aspects of the cultural climate at that time, 2019. He says, opportunities to achieve material success and social mobility through hard, honest work, which many people, including me, have assumed to be the core idea of the American dream, appear to be diminishing. So let me say that again, because it was better on paper. So he says, what's changing is the idea of the American dream, which we traditionally think of as opportunities to do better and to move up through hard, honest work. That is changing. Americans, it turns out, have something else in mind when they talk about the American dream, and they believe they are living it. Last year, the American Enterprise Institute and I joined forces with the Research Center NORC at the University of Chicago. Okay, so they surveyed nationally, the right people, presumably, and about their attitudes toward community and society. It was a deep survey. It was a deep sample, not just random ones. So they made sure that they were reaching Americans in all walks of life: rural, urban, ex-urban, and so on. What's ex-urban?
Former.
I know Keith urban, but I don't know ex-urban.
Like places that have been
used to be urban, they're not anymore.
Yeah. What is that called?
Suburbs.
No, when they go in and clean the place up.
Gentrification.
Yeah.
Our findings were released on okay. What the survey found.
Survey says.
About the American dream came as a surprise to me. Me being Dr. Samuel, what's his name?
Abrams.
When Americans were asked what makes the American dream a reality, they did not say the typical, what we've typically said about upward mobility and wealth and all that. Instead, 85% indicated that to have freedom of choice in how to live was essential to achieving the American dream. So, to your point about if you smoke weed, you can't complain that the American dream is dead. Bingo, that's it.
Because we know what happens when you go to Russia with weed.
Yeah. Yeah, it takes it takes a lot to get you back.
Even if it means trading
85%
a famous arms dealer.
85% indicated that to have freedom of choice in how to live.
Freedom of choice.
Also, get this. 83% said that a good family life is essential. That's a whole nother topic, but...
nah,
85,
don't have babies.
But 85%'s a lot in any poll.
We don't need babies.
So what they're saying is that the American dream is alive and well, but we don't think of it anymore in terms of upward mobility and success. What's more important is that we just get to choose to live the way we want to. I wonder if because of, maybe one of the benefits of social media and more sort of ubiquitous visibility to everything that's happening in the world, maybe people are starting to realize that if I lived somewhere else, I might not be able to live the way I want to live.
If you want good upper mobility, work on your pull-ups.
That's a good point. The traditional factors were less important. Only 16% said that to achieve the American dream, they believed it was essential to become wealthy. Only 45% said it was essential to have a better quality of life than your parents. And 49% said having a successful career. Now, 45 and 49% are pretty strong numbers in a survey, but not like 85%. So,
1985.
The data show that most Americans believe themselves to be achieving this version of the American dream, with 41% reporting that their families are already living the American dream, and another 41% that they are well on their way to doing so. Now, so 41% said we're there, and another 41% said we're on our way. And only 18% said it's out of reach for me. I can't reach it. So this is remarkable. And just to review, the survey was conducted by NORC and the University of Chicago, and it offered deep samples of Americans, not just random ones, so that researchers can be confident they are reaching Americans in all walks of life. So polls are polls, but now when you contrast the WEF, our friends at the WEF,
the WEF,
saying the WEF says the American dream is broken. The WEF says the American dream is broken. Social mobility has declined over the past decades. Median wages, and basically life is shit for most people, and the American dream is out of reach. Meanwhile, that was in 2017. Meanwhile, in 2019, this survey says that people are like, I'm living the dream, or I'm about to be living the dream. By the way, I don't give a shit about upward mobility. Well, I care about it. I care about it 41%. But what I really care about is that I can live my life. I can choose to live my life the way I want to. Your thoughts? By the way, folks, tell us what you think in the comments.
That goes for you too, banana shit.
Banana shit, if you are watching or listening, was there a number after banana shit, or was it just banana shit?
Banana shit.
It was just banana
the
shit.
Mr. Banana Shit.
Definitely want to know what you
MD.
think. And I'm serious about that. Trevor, what do you think?
You don't know until you try.
You talking about smoking weed or what?
No. I mean, I guess you would. You don't, but no. But like, it's like what we were talking about with those scientists or the analysts before. It was like you got these. I know so many other people my age, that being
the youngsters that you are,
the early 20s, who complain about how the American dream is dead and how they can't succeed, get anything done, accomplish. But like, I know them and they're not like trying.
They're not, right.
They're not trying.
Okay, so this is a good perspective, because these aren't just people in a survey. These are people who you hear them bitching, but then you actually see how they're living their life.
Yeah. And they're like in college for their 5th year, getting more debt. Okay, if I was going to a school with teachers and tests and homework like a child, and every half year I'm attaining more debt, and I have no social life other than getting boozed up and washed out, then yeah, America sounds pretty shit. I would think the dream is not attainable. So I'm just digging myself a hole. But that's not what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm doing what I want.
Yeah. And you get to choose to. I think this freedom to choose. Now, there's another thing. Well, we'll get into it another time. We need to do another episode on electoral majority and how you steer a country and things like that. But I think that in spite of all the things that maybe we worry about on all sides of the or I was gonna say on all sides of the spectrum, but like people on all
Gender
sides
spectrum.
of the issues are all concerned that our freedoms are being taken away. I mean, I'm concerned about that lots of times when I hear about things, and certainly if you're deep in the bowels of social media, then
Bowels.
you know that you're constantly being like somebody's constantly sounding the alarm.
Life is horrible. Life is terrible. But the guy
are-
who's telling you that is wearing an awfully nice suit.
Yeah. But, a couple of years ago, well, I guess it's been 2019. I guess that's what, 4 years ago, 80-something% of at least the people surveyed said, yeah, well, this is what the American dream is to me. It's about living, being able to choose the way I live. And that's not inconsistent with, so the guy writing that article made the point that it's different from what he thought the traditional idea of the American dream with upper mobility, etc. This is different, and it is different. It's a different version of the American dream, but it's not inconsistent because it's not. We got to wrap up, but the notion of choosing to live the way I want to live, most 80-something% of people say I'm living the dream because of that, and I live here and I don't live somewhere else where I wouldn't be able to choose to live the way I want to live. That's a big deal. And then even then, 40-some-odd% of, working class, however that was defined, people said, at least had a positive view that said the traditional view of the American dream and upward mobility and doing better than my parents, it's within reach. It depends on how hard you work, depends on how bad you want it, but it's within reach. So none of that sounds like... I don't think it doesn't sound like we need to have somebody from some WEEF people coming in and redistributing our wealth for us. So the system's not perfect, but
we addressed the problems with redistributing wealth in our last episode, the back porch conspiracy.
Yeah. Anytime somebody wants to redistribute your wealth, guess where they're redistributing it? All right. Are we done? I think that's it. So we just wanted to throw out some of these things, reflecting directly on the American dream. What do we think about it? What do people think about it? Tell us what you think about it in the comments. And if you want to be on the show and talk about this, I'm not saying you definitely can, but maybe you can. Just get in touch with us.
That goes for you too, Banana Shit.
And Banana Shit for sure.
Mr. Dr. Banana Shit.
That's it.
What does he have? Does he have anything?
Turn it off.
Do we have to?
We're tired.